if you're listening to this, chances are you're someone who, reads the books, maybe goes to the seminars, you know the systems,
Mm-hmm.
you understand real estate strategies, you follow market trends. You basically know what you should be doing to be financially successful.
Right. You've got the knowledge part down.
Exactly. But here's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Why do we sometimes have all that knowledge, all the best tools maybe, and still somehow come up short?
Yeah.
Why does success sometimes feel, well, temporary? Like we make progress and then, whoosh, we slide back to where we were financially.
It's a huge source of frustration for so many people. It really is. And we tend to look outwards, don't we, for the next strategy, the next tip.
Always the next shiny object.
Exactly. When the sources we're looking at today argue pretty strongly that the missing piece isn't external at all, it's not more knowledge we need.
So we've been looking in the wrong place.
That's the argument, yeah.
Hmm.
They contend we've been focusing on the symptoms, not the root cause.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive then. We're exploring what these sources call the subconscious financial blueprint.
Mm-hmm, the blueprint.
We want to move past just the strategies, the outer game, the mechanics of money, how things work on the surface,
Right.
and really get into the inner game, the psychology, the mindset, those deep-seated beliefs that apparently are really running the show when it comes to your financial life.
That's the core idea, uncovering how that blueprint gets formed and, crucially, the specific ways you can actually reset it
So moving from just knowing stuff theoretically.
to actually applying it in a way that sticks. Permanent results, that's the goal.
Okay, that distinction feels important. The outer game versus the inner game.
It's absolutely crucial. When we talk about money, there really are two different games happening simultaneously. The outer game is, like you said, the how-to.
Investing tactics, budgeting spreadsheets, negotiation skills.
All that practical stuff. Tools and knowledge. And that's where, honestly, probably 99% of people focus their energy, learning the mechanics.
But the inner game, that's different. That's more like your internal operating system.
Precisely. The source uses a great analogy, actually. Think about a carpenter, a really skilled one.
Okay.
Giving that carpenter the absolute best, most advanced tools, the top of the line, saws, drills, everything that's important. Sure, tools matter.
Right. Good tools help.
But what's more critical is being the masterful carpenter, the person who has the internal skill, the discipline, the vision, the confidence to actually use those tools effectively.
Okay, so the skill of the user is more important than the tool itself.
Exactly. If your internal blueprint, your inner game, isn't set for mastery, for wealth, then it doesn't matter how many fancy investment strategies or business plans you have. The best tools in the world won't make you rich if the person using them isn't internally wired for success.
So you'll just misuse the tools, or not use them effectively, or maybe even sabotage things.
That's what the sources suggest happens, yeah. The internal programming overrides the external knowledge. So to really change your financial future, you first have to get a handle on this deep internal programming that's currently setting your limits. Which brings us neatly into part one, the financial blueprint, basically. Setting your internal thermostat.
Okay, the thermostat analogy. I like that. It makes immediate sense, actually, because it helps explain why people seem to sabotage their own success sometimes.
It does. The sources explain that every single one of us has this internal financial thermostat. It's set for a specific level of wealth, a level of financial comfort.
And that setting could be anything. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands.
Millions, potentially. Or, and this is really critical, it could be set below zero.
Below zero, meaning programmed for debt.
Programmed for struggle, for debt, for just scraping by. And the scary part is you might be operating with that setting without even consciously realizing why you're always struggling.
Wow. And this setting is powerful.
Immensely powerful. The core idea is this. If you somehow get money, maybe through a bonus, an inheritance, whatever, that pushes you significantly above your thermostat setting.
Uh-oh.
Your subconscious alarm bells go off. It feels uncomfortable, unfamiliar. And so unconsciously, you'll start to engage in self-sabotaging behaviors.
Like what? Bad investments.
Could be bad investments, sudden urges for impulse spending, maybe attracting unexpected bills or losses. Things just seem to happen.
And the result is you end up right back where you started.
Exactly. You return to the financial level you're programmed for, your comfort zone. It works just like the thermostat in your house, right?
Yeah, it kicks in to restore the set temperature.
If the room gets too hot, the IC comes on. Too cold, the furnace fires up. It automatically restores the preset condition. Your financial thermostat does the same thing.
Okay, that really clicks when you think about, say, lottery winners. We hear those stories all the time.
It's a classic, stark example. Research consistently shows it. Someone wins millions, a life-changing amount of money.
You'd think they're set for life.
You would. But within a few years, studies find that the vast majority of them are right back where they started financially, sometimes even worse off with more debt.
Why? Because they never changed the internal setting.
Exactly. They got the external cash, the heat, but their internal thermostat was still set low. So the subconscious mechanisms kicked in: bad advice, lavish spending, trusting the wrong people, and poof, the money evaporated until they were back at their programmed level.
Okay, contrast that then. The sources mention someone like Donald Trump as an example on the other end.
Right. They use him as an example of someone whose thermostat is set incredibly high at the multi-billionaire level. Now, regardless of opinions about him, look at the financial pattern.
He had that period where he lost, what, billions? Nearly everything.
He lost a fortune, yeah.
Uh,
External circumstances looked disastrous, ruined, some said.
but he didn't stay down.
Nope. Within a relatively short time, a few years, he'd made it all back and then some. Why? Because the external money was gone, but the internal blueprint wasn't.
Ah, the thermostat was still set for billions.
Precisely. The knowledge, the mindset, the connections, the confidence, the internal programming for operating at that massive level of wealth that was all still intact. His thermostat setting remained high. And so, according to this theory, the universe, or his own actions driven by that blueprint, restored his wealth to match the setting.
That's a powerful contrast. It really drives home this core idea you mentioned earlier. The roots create the fruits.
Exactly. It's maybe the most fundamental principle in this whole discussion. If you look at a tree and you don't like the fruit it's producing, maybe the apples are small or they taste sour.
You don't spend your time polishing the sour apples.
Right, that's pointless. It achieves nothing long term.
Yeah.
If you want to change the fruit, you absolutely have to go down to the roots. You have to change what's happening underground, unseen.
So the visible results, the fruits, like our bank balance,
Or just a reflection of the invisible roots, our inner world. What's invisible creates what's visible. Our sources break it down into 4 realms. There's the physical world, which is what we see, touch, measure, like money.
the printout.
The printout, exactly. But that physical printout is generated by the other 3 realms. The mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. Those are the roots. Your financial situation is just a visible result of what's going on in those hidden realms.
I really like the computer printout analogy they use for this. It makes so much sense.
It's very clear, isn't it?
Yeah. If you print a document from your computer and you spot a typo on the paper,
You don't grab an eraser and try to fix it on the printed page.
no, that would be ridiculous.
Oh.
You know, the typo's still in the file.
Yeah.
If you hit print again.
The same typo appears. You have to go back into the program, into the source file on the hard drive, and correct it there.
And the source file in this analogy is our mental, emotional, and spiritual programming, our blueprint.
Exactly. Money, or the lack of it, is never the real problem. It's just a result. It's a symptom. Trying to fix your finances by just chasing more money without changing the internal program is like erasing the typo on the printout. It's temporary, ineffective, and ultimately futile. You have to fix the program.
Okay, so if our results come from this program, how does that actually work? What's the mechanism?
They lay out a very specific chain reaction called the process of manifestation. It shows how the inner programming connects directly to our outer results. And it's apparently non-negotiable. It always works this way.
What's the sequence?
It goes like this. Your programming leads to your thoughts. Your thoughts lead to your feelings lead to your actions, and your actions lead to your results. PR right arrow.
Programming, right arrow thoughts, feelings, right arrow results. Okay, let's unpack that chain because that feels really important.
It is. It shows the whole pathway.
Most people, when they try to change their financial life, where do they focus? Usually actions, right? Budgeting more, working harder, trying a new investment strategy.
Exactly. Or maybe they focus one step back on thoughts, using positive thinking, affirmations.
Right. I am wealthy.
But the source material argues that even our thoughts aren't the starting point. Our thoughts aren't really original in a sense.
What do you mean? Where do they come from then?
They argue that our thoughts primarily arise from the files of information stored in our conditioned mind. That's the programming part.
So, like files in a filing cabinet.
Pretty much. When you encounter a situation, say a financial opportunity or a challenge, your mind automatically goes to the filing cabinet and pulls out the relevant file based on your past programming.
And that file dictates the thought.
Yes. If the file folder labeled money-making opportunity contains programming like making money is hard, rich people are greedy, or I might fail, then the thoughts that naturally arise will be things like, this is too risky, I'm not good enough, what if I lose everything?
Which then leads to certain feelings.
Feelings of fear, anxiety, doubt, overwhelm.
And those feelings drive actions or
Well,
inaction.
right. You procrastinate, you overanalyze, you play it safe, you maybe don't even take the action required, you withdraw.
And the result?
The result is you miss the opportunity or you get a poor outcome. The chain reaction played out exactly as dictated by the initial programming. P right arrow dollar, the right arrow dollar.
So just trying to force different actions or even just thinking positive thoughts without changing the underlying program, the files.
It's like fighting gravity. It's incredibly difficult and rarely sustainable because the root cause, the programming, is still pulling you back to the old patterns. The real leverage point for change is way back at the beginning of that chain, the programming itself.
Okay, so if this programming is the bedrock, the foundation for everything else, we absolutely have to understand how it got there in the first place.
Right.
How was this blueprint created?
Right. And the sources pinpoint three main ways we get conditioned, especially during childhood when we're like sponges just soaking everything up.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first is verbal programming. What did you hear?
So the things people said.
Exactly. All those phrases, sayings, and beliefs about money, wealth, and rich people that you heard over and over again from parents, teachers, relatives, media, culture.
Things like, money doesn't grow on trees.
That's a classic one. Or, we can't afford that.
Right.
You have to work hard for your money. Money is the root of all evil. Filthy rich. Rich people are greedy.
Yeah, you hear those kinds of things a lot. Maybe the parents didn't even mean harm.
Often they didn't. They might have been trying to be realistic or protective or just repeating what they heard. But for a young, impressionable mind, those statements aren't just opinions. They get filed away in the subconscious as fundamental truths about how the world works. They become part of your operating system.
And this verbal stuff can override logic later in life, even if you're successful.
Absolutely. The sources shared a really striking story about this. A participant in one of their seminars, let's call him Stephen.
Good.
Stephen was earning a fantastic income, over $800,000 a year, for nearly a decade. Really successful on the surface.
Wow, okay. Sounds good.
But here's the thing. He was constantly broke. His net worth was basically zero. He'd make a ton, and then somehow it would just disappear. Bad investments, expenses bloating inexplicably, things breaking down. He couldn't figure out why he kept sabotaging himself.
$800,000 a year and broke? How?
It came down to his mother's verbal programming. Growing up, she had constantly told him things like, rich people are greedy, they make their money off the backs of the poor, you should just have enough to get by, anything more is selfish.
Oof, that's heavy stuff to hear as a kid.
It really is. So deep down, Stephen had this powerful subconscious association. Rich, greedy equals bad person. And he didn't want to be a bad person. He certainly didn't want his mother to think he was greedy.
So his subconscious blueprint had this conflict.
A massive conflict. His conscious mind wanted the success and the income, but his subconscious emotionally programmed mind equated being rich with being morally flawed, with disappointing his mother.
So the thermostat kicked in.
Every time his wealth started to accumulate, crossing that invisible line into what his subconscious deemed too rich or greedy, the internal alarm went off. The self-sabotage mechanisms fired up the bad decisions, the sudden spending to bring his wealth back down to a level that felt emotionally safe, even if it meant being broke.
That's incredible. It really highlights a key principle they mentioned, doesn't it?
Which one?
That when the subconscious mind has to choose between deeply rooted emotions and logic.
Emotions will almost always win, yes. His emotional need to not be perceived as greedy based on that childhood programming was far more powerful than the logical desire for financial security. He subconsciously prioritized emotional integrity, as defined by his mother's words, over building wealth.
Wow. Okay, so verbal programming is huge. What's the second influence?
The second one is modeling. What did you see?
So not what you heard, but what you observed. Actions.
Exactly. How did your parents or primary caregivers act around money? How do they manage it, spend it, talk about it, feel about it? We learn an incredible amount simply by watching and imitating.
And we either copy them directly,
or sometimes we react strongly against them and do the exact opposite. It often falls into one of those two patterns, identical or rebellious.
So you need to look back and think, okay, were my parents spenders or savers? Risk takers with money? Or super conservative? Did they argue about it? Was money a source of joy or stress in the house?
All of that. Because those behaviors become our unconscious normal for handling money. The source uses a funny, kind of absurd example to show how ingrained these modeled habits can become without us even questioning them.
Oh, yeah.
It's the story of a woman who always meticulously cut off both ends of a ham before she baked it.
Okay.
Why? Her husband finally asked her one day. She just shrugged and said, "I don't know, that's just how my mother always did it." So curious, they asked the mother, and the mother said, "Well, that's how my mother did it."
So they went to the grandmother.
They did, and the grandmother explained, "Oh, that's simple. My roasting pan was too small for the whole ham."
Huh. So the habit got passed down for 2 generations, completely disconnected from the original reason.
Exactly. And the point is, we often carry around financial habits, how much we save, how we spend, whether we invest or avoid it, that are just like cutting the ends off the ham. They were modeled for us, we absorb them unconsciously, and we've never stopped to ask, wait, why am I doing this? Does this actually serve me?
That makes sense. And the author, T. Harv Eker, he shares a really personal story about this, doesn't he? About his own income patterns.
He does, and it's very revealing about how deep modeling goes. His father was an entrepreneur in the home building business,
Okay.
and his business ran in cycles. For a year or two, his dad would be heavily in debt building the houses, very stressed, money was tight, arguments happened. Then the houses would sell.
And suddenly, boom.
Suddenly, they were, as he puts it, rolling in dough. His dad would be happy, relaxed, generous, money flowed freely. But then, inevitably, a new project would start and the cycle would begin again. Debt, stress, scarcity, followed by prosperity, ease, back to debt.
A real up-and-down roller coaster.
Constant for his entire childhood. And guess what happened when the author started his own businesses?
Let me guess. He recreated the exact same pattern.
For a decade, he says. He'd start a venture, work incredibly hard, make a small fortune, and then somehow he'd end up broke again, needing to start over. The exact same yo-yo income pattern his father had modeled.
And he didn't realize it was modeling.
Not for years. He blamed the economy, bad partnerships, bad luck, everything external. He didn't see that he was subconsciously living out his father's financial blueprint, this ingrained cycle of feast and famine, because that's what felt normal based on his childhood observations.
That's powerful. But what about the other reaction? You mentioned rebellion, the rebel factor.
Right. This happens often when people grow up in poverty or severe financial struggle, and they develop a lot of anger or resentment towards their parents' situation.
Because they decide, I will never be like that.
Exactly. That anger and rebellion become rocket fuel. It drives them to work incredibly hard, take risks, and often achieve massive financial success. They prove they're not like their parents.
Which sounds good, right? Success driven by determination.
On the surface, yes. But here's the hidden trap. If the motivation for wealth is anger and resentment, then money becomes inextricably linked with those negative emotions in their subconscious.
Ah, so money equals anger.
In their blueprint, yes. And while that anger might fuel the climb, eventually the subconscious mind, or maybe your higher self, seeks peace and happiness. And if money is fundamentally linked to anger in your programming,
Then to get rid of the anger, you have to get rid of the money.
that's the twisted logic the subconscious follows. It thinks, this wealth is tied to all this stress, anger, and resentment I feel. To find peace, I need to eliminate the source of the anger, the money.
So they sabotage themselves again, but for a different reason.
Right. Maybe a messy divorce wipes them out, or they make a series of uncharacteristically terrible business decisions, or they just start spending wildly. They unconsciously get rid of the money, the fruit, because they haven't dealt with the underlying anger, the root. Until that root emotion is addressed and healed, the money will never bring them true joy or lasting stability.
Okay, that's verbal programming and modeling. What's the third influence?
The third one is specific incidents. What did you experience?
Single events.
Yeah, sometimes one specific emotionally charged event related to money from your past can create a powerful, lasting belief that shapes your entire financial life.
Like a financial trauma almost.
Could be, or just a seemingly small incident that had a big emotional impact at the time. The author shares another really insightful example about his own wife.
Okay, what happened with her?
When she was a little girl, maybe 8 years old, she'd often ask her mother for a quarter to buy ice cream from the truck.
A familiar childhood scene.
Right. But her mother's consistent response was, "Sorry, dear, I don't have any money. Go ask your dad. Dad's got all the money."
And this happened repeatedly.
Over and over again. "Go ask Dad. Dad's got all the money." Now, think about what that 8-year-old brain subconsciously filed away from that repeated experience.
Okay, well, one, dads have money, men have the money.
Exactly. Belief number 1, men are the source of money. This created an unconscious expectation later in life that her husband should be the primary provider, the one responsible for finances.
And belief number two, if mom always said she didn't have money.
Belief number 2, women don't have money. Or, perhaps more accurately, women aren't supposed to handle or hold on to money. It's not their role.
Oh, wow. So how did that play out later?
It created huge conflicts in their marriage around money. Because of that programming, whenever she got money from work, a gift, whatever her subconscious blueprint, trying to validate the belief women don't have money, prompted her to get rid of it quickly, usually by spending it, often on things that brought pleasure but weren't necessarily planned.
So she was just living out her programming. Women spend money, men provide it.
Unconsciously, yes. But his financial blueprint, likely influenced by his own upbringing, probably saw money differently, maybe as security, freedom, something to be managed and grown.
So when he saw her spending,
His blueprint felt threatened. He might perceive it as irresponsible, jeopardizing their future security or freedom. But she wasn't trying to be irresponsible. She was trying to be, well, a woman, according to her deeply ingrained childhood programming.
they weren't really arguing about the money itself, were they?
Almost never. They thought they were fighting about, say, $1,000 spent on clothes or whatever, but they were really fighting about their completely different, conflicting, invisible financial blueprints learned in childhood. His blueprint screamed, danger, insecurity, while hers screamed, this is what women do, this brings pleasure.
That puts a whole new perspective on arguments about money and relationships.
It really does. Most money fights aren't actually about the dollars and cents. They're about clashing psychological programming, unmet emotional needs, and conflicting definitions of what money means.
Okay, so we've got these three major conditioning factors: verbal, modeling, specific incidents that build our blueprint. We understand how it happens. Now, the crucial part, how do we actually change it? How do we go in and rewrite that code?
Right, because awareness is just the first step. Understanding how you got programmed is essential, but it doesn't automatically change the program. You need a specific strategy for the rewrite.
And the sources offer one.
Yes, they propose a clear, 4-step process that you can apply to each of the conditioning influences we just talked about. It's designed to consciously release the old programming and install a new, empowering belief.
4 steps, what are they?
The steps are awareness, understanding, disassociation, and declaration.
Okay, let's break those down. Awareness.
Awareness is simply bringing the unconscious programming into conscious light. It involves actively thinking about and writing down the specific things you heard about money, verbal, the specific ways your parents handled money, modeling, and any specific emotional incidents you experienced around money. You have to see the old program clearly first.
Got it. Step 2, understanding.
Understanding is connecting the dots. You write down exactly how you believe that specific programming, that phrase you heard, that behavior you saw, that incident you experienced has actually affected your financial life so far. What have been the concrete results of operating under that belief? You need to see the cause and effect link.
Okay, so you see the belief and then you see its consequences in your life.
Mhm.
What's third? Disassociation.
Disassociation is crucial. This is where you consciously realize that these thoughts, beliefs, and patterns you've uncovered are learned. They came from outside of you. They're not inherently who you are. They're just old files stored in your mind based on past input.
So you separate yourself from the programming. It's not me, it's just something I learned.
Exactly. And because you learned it, you can unlearn it and choose something new. This realization gives you back your power and your choice in the present moment. You recognize, that was then, this is now, I can choose differently.
Okay, awareness, understanding, disassociation.
Yeah.
And the final step is declaration.
Declaration. This is where you actively install the new program. And the sources make a really important distinction here between declarations and what people usually think of as affirmations.
Right, affirmations are often like, I am wealthy, I am abundant, stuff like that.
Exactly. And the problem with standard affirmations, according to this viewpoint, is that if you say, I am wealthy, when your current reality and your deep beliefs scream, no, you're not, your mind often rejects it.
Yeah, that little voice pops up. Who are you kidding? Look at your bank account.
Precisely. That cynical voice undermines the affirmation. A declaration, however, is different. It's not necessarily stating something is true right now. It's an official, powerful, verbal statement of intention.
Like declaring your intention to become wealthy.
Yes, or declaring your intention to adopt a new belief or take a specific course of action. It's a formal commitment spoken with energy and conviction. It basically says, this is my new direction. This is the new standard I am setting for myself starting now.
Mhm.
Whether the results are visible yet or not doesn't matter to the declaration itself.
How does that work? So why is declaring it out loud so important?
Well, the sources suggest a couple of reasons. One is energetic speaking. A declaration sends a specific vibrational frequency out to the universe, signaling your intention. But perhaps more practically,
Yeah.
it makes the commitment physical. Thoughts are just electrical impulses, kind of ethereal. But
Mhm.
speaking involves your breath, your vocal cords, sound waves. It uses kinetic energy. It grounds the intention in the physical world.
And they recommend doing something physical while declaring.
Yes, often placing your hand over your heart or touching your head while speaking the declaration aloud. This helps to anchor it, to integrate it more deeply, bypassing that purely analytical, cynical part of the brain that might want to argue with it. It connects the mental intention with the physical body.
It goes back to that idea, what you hear, you forget, what you see, you remember, what you do, you understand.
Exactly. You have to do the declaration. You have to physically embody the shift you're making. So, for example, after working through the negative verbal programming you heard,
Like money is the root of all evil.
right. After awareness, recognizing you heard it, understanding, seeing how it made you avoid wealth, and disassociation, realizing it's just a learned idea, not you, the declaration might be something like, what I heard about money isn't necessarily true. I choose to adopt new ways of thinking that support my happiness and success. You state the release of the old and the adoption of the new.
And they always tack on that phrase at the end.
Yes. Crucially, they recommend concluding declarations related to wealth with a powerful statement of identity like, I have a millionaire mind.
I have a millionaire mind, not I will have or I want to have, but I have.
Right. It's declaring the identity you are choosing to step into now, programming your subconscious with that new reality. It's not wishing, it's stating your new internal standard.
Yep.
You use these 4 steps, awareness, understanding, disassociation, declaration, for each limiting belief you uncover from verbal programming, modeling, and specific incidents. Okay, so once we've done that essential work of digging up and releasing the old limiting programming using those 4 steps, the next phase is consciously installing the new software. We need to replace the old mental files with ones that actually support wealth creation.
Right. You mentioned the mind being like a giant file cabinet earlier.
Exactly. Metaphorically speaking, you've got files for everything: relationships, health, career, and definitely money. When a situation comes up, like a decision about investing or spending, your mind automatically pulls out the relevant file.
And if that file is full of negative programming, fear, scarcity, victim thinking,
Then the thoughts, feelings, and actions that follow will naturally lead to poor results. The outcome is predetermined by the contents of the file.
so we need to consciously create and install new files, files that contain the mindsets and strategies that wealthy people operate from.
That's the core idea of the second part of this framework. The sources identify specific wealth files, key attitudes, and beliefs where rich people think and act differently than poor or middle-class people. We need to understand these differences and consciously choose to adopt the wealthy mindset.
Okay, let's dive into some of these files. Where should we start?
Let's start with arguably the most fundamental one, mindset file, #1, creator versus victim.
Creator versus victim. Okay.
The core belief here is starkly different. Rich people operate from the fundamental belief, I create my life, they take ownership. Poor people, conversely, tend to operate from the belief, life happens to me.
So one is about taking responsibility. The other is about feeling powerless.
Precisely. When you adopt the victim role, consciously or unconsciously, you are essentially giving away all your power and responsibility for your financial results. You're saying external forces are in control, not you.
And the sources say there are clear signs, clues, that someone is operating from victim mode.
Yes, they identify 3 primary indicators. Recognizing these in yourself or hearing them from others is a major red flag.
Okay, what's the first clue?
Clue number 1 is blame.
Ah, the blame game.
Victims are masters at pointing the finger. It's always someone else's fault they aren't rich. They blame the economy, the government, the stock market, their broker, their boss, their spouse, their parents, their lack of education. The list is endless.
It's never their choices or their actions.
Never. It's always an external factor. Now, here's a question that often comes up, and it's a fair one.
Hmm.
Isn't it sometimes true that external factors do impact us? Like, isn't it okay to acknowledge that a bad economy or a policy change does affect your finances? Where's the line between acknowledging reality and just blaming?
That's a great question. Because you don't want to deny reality, but you also don't want to give away your power by blaming.
Exactly. And the distinction, according to these sources, lies in where you put your focus and what you do next. A creator might acknowledge the challenging economy. Sure, they'll say, okay, interest rates are high, that's a factor. But then immediately their focus shifts inward. Given this reality, what can I do? What actions can I take? How can I adapt or pivot?
So they acknowledge, then focus on their own response.
Right. The victim, on the other hand, acknowledges the external factor, the economy is terrible, and then stops. They use it as a justification for inaction or failure. Well, what can I do? The economy's bad. The moment you point the finger and make something or someone else responsible for your lack of success, you've stepped into victimhood and given away your power to change things. Creators take 100% responsibility for their results, regardless of the circumstances.
Okay, so blame is clue one. What's the second?
Clue number 2 is justification.
How is that different from blame?
When victims get tired of blaming external factors or maybe feel a bit guilty about it, they start rationalizing or justifying their situation, usually by downplaying the importance of what they lack.
Like saying, well, money's not really that important anyway.
Exactly. Or, I'd rather be happy than rich, as if the two are mutually exclusive. Or, having money is just too much hassle.
Okay, I've heard people say things like that.
It's incredibly common. But the sources argue this is a very destructive mental file to have installed. Why? Because if you genuinely believe money isn't important, why would the universe or your own subconscious effort bring it to you?
You won't attract what you don't value.
Precisely. The book puts it very bluntly. Money is extremely important in the areas in which it works and extremely unimportant in the areas in which it doesn't. Meaning, try paying your rent with love. Try buying groceries with happiness. It doesn't work. In the areas where money functions, providing food, shelter, opportunities, choices, helping others, it's incredibly important. To say money isn't important is usually just a defense mechanism to make yourself feel better about not having enough of it. You have to see money as important and valuable if you want to attract more of it.
Okay, that's justification. Blame. Justification. What's the third clue?
The third clue, and the sources say this is the absolute worst one for your financial health, is complaining.
Complaining. Worse than blaming or justifying. Why?
Because of a fundamental universal law they emphasize, what you focus on expands.
Okay.
When you complain about your job, your bills, the government, the traffic, the weather, whatever, what are you focusing on?
You're focusing on what's wrong, what's lacking, what's negative.
Exactly. You are actively putting your energy and attention onto the problems, the difficulties, the scarcity. And since what you focus on expands, you are literally, energetically attracting more of that negative stuff into your life.
So complaining makes you.
The source uses a good phrase, a living, breathing crap magnet.
Wow. Okay, blunt.
Very blunt, but memorable. Complaining keeps you stuck in negativity and actively repels positive opportunities and solutions. If you want to shift your reality, you have to shift your focus away from complaining about what's wrong and onto gratitude for what's right and opportunities for what could be.
They suggest a challenge around this, don't they?
Yes, the 7-day no complaining challenge. Try going a full week without uttering a single complaint, verbal or mental. It sounds easy, but most people are shocked at how often they complain without realizing it, and how dramatically their perspective shifts when they consciously stop focusing on the negative.
Okay, so blame, justification, complaining. Those are the three signs of victim thinking. And the bottom line is...
The bottom line is a critical wealth principle. There is no such thing as a really rich victim.
You can't be both wealthy and a victim.
According to this philosophy, no. Why? Because victims often subconsciously seek something else more than wealth.
Attention.
Yeah, sympathy, pity, having people feel sorry for them. They often confuse this attention with love or connection. And in order to keep getting that attention, that core me energy.
They have to stay poor. They have to maintain the victim status.
Exactly. So their subconscious mind ensures they never actually get rich, because getting rich would mean losing the attention they crave from being a victim. It's a harsh truth, but the source is adamant. You have to make a choice. You can be rich, or you can be a victim. You cannot be both. You have to give up the payoffs of victimhood, the blaming, the justifying, the complaining, the attention, if you truly want to create wealth.
Okay, so ditching the victim mentality is non-negotiable.
Yeah.
That leads us to another key mindset shift, right?
Yeah.
Mindset file, #3, commitment versus wanting.
Yes, this one is huge because most people will say they want to be rich. If you ask a room full of people who wants to be a millionaire, almost every hand goes up.
Of course, who wouldn't want that?
But just wanting it, according to the sources, is basically useless. It's passive. It's like wishing on a star.
So there are different levels of desire.
They define three distinct levels. The first level is simply, I want to be rich.
The wishing level.
Pretty much. It's like saying, yeah, if it fell in my lap, I'd take it. There's no real energy or intention behind it. It won't create results.
Okay, what's the second level?
The second level is, I choose to be rich.
Okay, choose sounds stronger than want.
It is better. Choosing implies a conscious decision. You're actively opting for wealth over other possibilities. It carries more power.
But it's still not the top level.
No, because choosing can still be a bit conditional. It can sometimes imply, I choose this as long as it's not too hard, or I choose this unless something better comes along. It's not fully definitive.
So what's the third most powerful level?
The third level, the one that actually generates significant wealth, is I commit to being rich.
Commitment. What does that mean in this context? Really mean?
It means dedicating yourself unreservedly. It means giving 100% without holding back, without excuses. It means being willing to do whatever it takes, ethically and legally, for as long as it takes.
Like burning the boats. No retreat.
Exactly like burning the boats. Commitment means killing off all other alternatives. There is no plan B. You are all in. This will happen.
I think a lot of people underestimate what that level of commitment actually requires. They might say they're committed, but their actions don't always align.
That's a very common mismatch. People think they can get truly wealthy working a comfortable 40-hour week, avoiding risks, and taking long vacations whenever they feel like it.
And the reality is?
The reality, especially in the beginning stages of building significant wealth, is often far from a stroll in the park, as the source puts it. It demands intense focus, courage, continuous learning, expert knowledge, and often 100% of your effort.
It might mean working crazy hours.
It might mean being willing to work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week for a period. It means being willing to risk your time, your energy, your own capital, sometimes with absolutely no guarantee of return.
That sounds daunting.
It can be. And that's why true commitment is rare. Most people who aren't financially successful have an invisible line. They won't cross a limit on how much they're willing to risk, how much discomfort they're willing to endure, how much they're willing to sacrifice in the short term for the long-term gain.
Like only dipping a toe in the water.
Exactly. You might get your foot wet, but you're not going to swim across the channel that way. You have to be willing to jump in fully.
But the upside of that level of commitment.
The upside, according to this philosophy, is that the moment you make that absolute, unreserved commitment, something shifts. The universe seems to conspire to help you. Resources appear, opportunities open up, people come into your life to support you. Your mind becomes laser-focused on finding solutions, overcoming obstacles.
So commitment unlocks a different kind of energy.
It seems to. It takes everything you've got, perhaps, but the potential return isn't just additive, it can be exponential. But it starts with that unwavering, boat-burning commitment. Not just wanting, not just choosing, but committing.
Okay, so we need to be creators, not victims, and truly commit. What's another key difference in mindset? You mentioned mindset file, #5. Focus on opportunity.
Yes, this is about how people perceive and react to potential ventures or challenges, particularly around the concept of risk.
How do poor or middle-class people typically view risk?
They tend to focus primarily on the obstacles, the potential problems, and the fear of loss. Their default thinking pattern when presented with an opportunity is often, what if it doesn't work? Or what could go wrong? Their primary motivation is often avoiding failure or loss.
So they see the downsides first.
Predominantly, yes. Now, contrast that with how wealthy individuals tend to approach things.
How do they see it?
They focus intensely on the opportunity and the potential rewards. Their driving belief isn't, what if it doesn't work, but rather, it will work because I'll make it work.
That sounds like a huge difference in confidence.
It is. It stems from a deep-seated belief in their own ability to succeed, to figure things out, to overcome challenges. And crucially, even if they do fail or lose money on a venture, they have the confidence that they can make it all back again. So the fear of loss doesn't paralyze them in the same way. They see potential failure as a learning opportunity, not a catastrophe.
So they're not afraid of risk at all, or are they just reckless?
No, it's not about being reckless. Wealthy people aren't typically gamblers throwing money away randomly. They take educated risks.
Educated risks, meaning they do their homework.
Absolutely. They research, they analyze, they do their due diligence. But, and this is key, they do it relatively quickly and then they act. They don't wait for absolute certainty because they know that rarely exists.
They don't get stuck in analysis paralysis.
Exactly. That's the trap poor and middle-class people often fall into. They stall, they overthink, they hem and haw for weeks, months, sometimes even years, trying to gather every last piece of information, waiting for the perfect time or perfect conditions.
And while they're waiting,
The opportunity passes them by. The rich person, operating with the mindset, ready, fire, aim, has already taken action.
ready, fire, aim. Explain that.
It means get yourself as ready as you reasonably can in a short amount of time, ready, then take massive action, fire, and then correct your course, adjust, and refine as you go based on real-world feedback, aim.
So, action first, perfection later.
Or rather, action leads to feedback, which leads to better aiming. You learn and adjust in motion. You can't steer a parked car. Wealthy people understand that business and life rarely travel in perfectly straight lines. You have to get moving and navigate the curves as they come.
You mentioned analysis paralysis trapping people. How do successful people avoid that and sort of get into the game faster? The source talks about getting into the corridor, right?
Yes, the corridor analogy is excellent for illustrating how action creates opportunity.
How does that work?
The idea is that you often can't see all the opportunities available from the outside looking in. You have to take some kind of action, even a small step, to get inside the field or industry into the corridor. Once you're inside, moving down that corridor, suddenly new doors of opportunity become visible that you couldn't even perceive from the starting point.
And the author's own story illustrates this. The dessert cafe idea.
Perfectly. He had this idea to open a fancy dessert cafe. He did some initial planning, but he realized he knew very little about the actual operations of the food service business. He lacked that internal, practical knowledge.
So what did he do? Did he hire consultants? Spend months researching?
That's what someone stuck in analysis paralysis might do. Instead, he decided to get into the corridor. He took a job not as a manager, but as a busboy at a popular local place called Mother Butler's Pie Shop.
Busboy, when he was planning his own cafe.
Exactly. He wasn't too proud. He wanted to learn the business from the ground up on someone else's dime, or as he put it, on someone else's ticket. He swept floors, washed dishes, served customers, and most importantly, he observed everything.
He got inside the corridor.
He got inside, and by being there, working the job, talking to people, seeing the daily challenges and opportunities firsthand.
He learned way more than he could from books.
Absolutely. He gained invaluable practical knowledge about staffing, inventory, customer flow, marketing, all of it. He made contacts. And critically, being inside that corridor allowed him to spot other opportunities he never would have conceived of from the outside.
And that led him away from the cafe idea.
Completely. Based on what he learned and saw inside that pie shop corridor, he realized the dessert cafe wasn't the best path. Instead, he spotted a different gap in the market, the need for retail fitness equipment stores.
And that became his first major success.
Yes, that pivot, born from taking action and getting inside the corridor as a busboy, led directly to the fitness store chain that made him his first million. The lesson is profound. Action, even seemingly small or humble action, is almost always superior to endless analysis. Get in the game, get in the corridor, and opportunities will reveal themselves. Now, this focus on seeing opportunity and acting connects really nicely to another crucial wealth file, mindset file #12, the abundance of both.
Okay, both, as opposed to...
Yeah, as opposed to either. Poor and middle-class people often operate from a mindset of scarcity, believing that life presents limited choices, forcing them into painful either decisions.
But you have to choose between having a successful career or having a happy family life.
Exactly. Or money, or happiness.
Right.
Or great health, or great wealth, or focusing on business, or having time for fun and play. They see it as a zero-sum game, where choosing one means sacrificing the other.
And rich people think differently.
Fundamentally differently. They operate from a mindset of abundance. They believe there's plenty to go around and that limitations are often self-imposed. So when faced with an apparent either choice, their default question isn't, which one should I choose? It's,
How can I have both?
precisely. They challenge the premise of limitation. They believe that with creativity, ingenuity, and commitment, you can almost always figure out a way to have the best of both worlds, or at least find a solution that integrates key elements of both.
You give an example.
Sure, instead of should I focus on my business or spend time with my family, the both question is how can I structure my business and my time so that I can excel professionally and be deeply present and connected with my family? It forces you to look for integrative solutions, not make sacrifices.
The source uses that cake analogy here, right?
Yes, it's quite illustrative. Rich people believe you can have your cake and eat it too. They believe in abundance, enjoyment, having it all.
And the middle class.
The middle class often thinks cake is too rich, or it's too decadent, or it has too many calories. So they say, I'll just have a small piece. They limit their enjoyment and their portion due to scarcity thinking or guilt.
And the poor.
According to the analogy, poor people often don't even believe they deserve cake in the first place. So they don't order cake. Maybe they order a donut instead, focus on the hole in the middle, and then wonder why they have nothing. It's a stark metaphor for how mindset dictates what we allow ourselves to receive or even ask for.
That really highlights the scarcity versus abundance viewpoint.
Mm.
The either thinking seems rooted in a fear that there isn't enough to go around.
Exactly. The underlying belief is that wealth is limited, like a fixed pie. If I get a big slice, that means less for everyone else. So maybe I should feel guilty about wanting too much, or maybe I need to hoard what I have.
And the source argues this is fundamentally wrong.
Completely wrong. They argue that money isn't a limited, fixed resource that gets used up. It circulates. They use a simple example to demonstrate this.
The $5 bill.
Right. Imagine you have a $5 bill. You use it to buy a coffee from a local barista. That's $5 of value exchanged.
Okay.
Now, the barista takes that same $5 bill and uses it to buy gas on her way home. Another $5 of value exchanged. The gas station owner then uses that same $5 bill to buy a sandwich from the deli next door. Another $5 exchange. The deli owner uses it to pay their supplier, and so on.
So the same single $5 is facilitating multiple transactions.
Exactly. In that simple chain, that one $5 bill created maybe $20 or $25 worth of total economic value and velocity. The money wasn't depleted when it was spent. It circulated, creating value for multiple people along the way.
So money is more like energy that flows rather than a pie that gets eaten.
That's a great way to put it. It's abundant and reusable. Therefore, the idea that becoming wealthy takes money away from others is flawed. In fact, the source argues the opposite.
How so?
By becoming wealthy yourself and then spending, investing, and donating that money wisely, you actually put more money into circulation. You create more value, more jobs, more opportunities for others. Hoarding money out of fear actually slows down the economic engine. Wealth is about flow and contribution, not scarcity and hoarding. Asking, how can I have both, comes from that abundant circulatory view of wealth.
Okay, understanding these mindsets is crucial. But the sources also emphasize some very practical habits, right? Particularly around actually handling the money once you start making it.
Oh, absolutely. Mindset is foundational, but without the right actions, especially around managing money, wealth won't stick. This brings us to two closely related files. File #13 and #14, which deal with measuring wealth correctly and managing it effectively.
Let's start with file #13. Net worth is the true measure. What's the key distinction here?
It's a massive one. Most poor and middle-class people focus almost entirely on their working income.
How much they make each month, their salary, their hourly wage.
Exactly. That's their primary financial metric. Rich people, however, focus predominantly on their net worth.
Net worth being
The total financial value of everything you own, your assets, cash, investments, real estate, businesses, etc., minus everything you owe, your liabilities, debts, mortgages, loans, etc. Assets minus liabilities equals net worth.
and that's the real score.
That is the ultimate scorecard of wealth. As the source jokes, at the country club, the conversation isn't, hey, Bob, did you get a raise? It's, hey, Bob, what's your net worth up to these days? Net worth is the true measure.
Why is income alone not enough? Why can't you just focus on earning more?
Because of a pesky little principle called Parkinson's Law.
Parkinson's Law. That's the one that says work expands to fill the time available.
That's one version. The financial application is equally true. Expenses always rise to meet income.
Ah, so as you earn more, you tend to spend more.
Almost inevitably, unless you're consciously managing it. You get a raise, what happens? You feel a bit richer, so maybe you upgrade your car, move to a slightly bigger apartment or house, buy nicer clothes, eat out more often. Your lifestyle inflates right alongside your income.
And your net worth doesn't actually increase much, even though your income did.
Exactly. You're making more, but you're spending more. So you're not accumulating assets or paying down debt significantly faster. Focusing only on income keeps you on the treadmill. Building net worth is how you get off.
So how do you build net worth then, if income isn't the whole story?
Building net worth requires actively managing four factors. Income is one, yes, but it's only one of four.
What are the other three?
Four factors are income, savings, what you keep from your income, investments, how effectively your savings grow, and simplification.
Simplification. Tell me more about that one. It seems counterintuitive, maybe.
Simplification is about consciously managing and reducing your cost of living. It's about ensuring your expenses don't automatically rise to meet your income. It's about creating a larger gap between what you earn and what you spend, so there's more available for savings and investments.
So it's the opposite of lifestyle inflation. It's conscious lifestyle design.
Perfectly put. And it can be incredibly powerful. The source gives the example of a woman named Sue.
What did Sue do?
Sue managed to become financially free, meaning her investments covered her living expenses by age 30, not because she had some astronomical income.
How then?
Through smart investing and radical simplification. She worked as a nurse, made decent money, and bought a house. Property values went up, and at age 23, she sold the house for a $300,000 profit.
Okay, nice windfall. Most people would take that and buy a much bigger house.
That's the typical Parkinson's Law response. But Sue didn't. Instead, she took that $300,000, invested it wisely, and then she moved in with her sister.
Moved in with her sister?
Yeah.
After making $300?
Yes. She dramatically reduced her living expenses. Her overhead became minimal. Meanwhile, her $300,000 investment portfolio was compounding and growing significantly each year. Because her expenses were so low, her investments could cover them much sooner.
So by simplifying her lifestyle, she reached financial freedom way faster than someone earning maybe double her income but living in a huge house with huge expenses.
Exactly. Simplification, controlling the expense side of the equation, is a massive accelerator for building net worth. You have to manage all four factors. Boost income, save diligently, invest wisely, and simplify consciously.
That makes sense. And this need to manage things leads directly into the next file, doesn't it? File hashtag 14, Mastering Money Management.
Directly. The source states this very boldly. Mastering money management is arguably the single biggest difference between financial success and financial failure. It's more important than how much you earn.
More important than income. Really?
That's the claim. Because if you can't manage $100, you won't be able to manage $100,000. The habits are the same, just the number of zeros changes. There's a universal principle at play here, almost a spiritual law. Until you show you can handle what you've got, you won't get any more.
Wow. Okay. So the universe, or just the practicalities of life, won't trust you with more responsibility if you can't handle your current level.
Think about it logically. If you mismanage a small amount of money, why would you suddenly become brilliant at managing a large amount? More money often just magnifies poor habits. If you can't manage $1,000, getting $10,000 will likely just lead to bigger problems, not solutions.
So the habit of managing money is paramount, regardless of the amount.
Absolutely critical. And this is why the sources insist you must start managing your money now, no matter how little you have. Even if you're in debt, even if you feel like you have nothing to manage.
How do you manage money you don't have? If you're borrowing to live?
The advice is stark. If you have to borrow $100 to live, borrow $101. And then manage that extra dollar according to a system. The habit of managing is more important than the amount being managed, especially when you're starting out. You have to prove to yourself and perhaps to the universe that you can handle money responsibly.
Okay, so what is this management system they recommend? Is it complicated?
Surprisingly simple, actually, but profound in its impact because it forces balance. It's not just about saving, it's about allocating money purposefully for different goals, including enjoyment.
Balance sounds good. What's the core system?
The core is setting up several designated bank accounts, or even just using jars if you're starting with physical cash. And you allocate every single dollar that comes in, after taxes, into these different accounts by percentage.
Okay, what's the most important account?
Unquestionably, the Financial Freedom Account, or FFA. This account receives 10% of every dollar you earn.
10% off the top for the FFA. And what happened to that money?
This is the crucial rule. The money in your FFA is never, ever spent. It is only invested.
Never spent. On anything. Emergencies.
Never. This is your golden goose.
Got it.
Its sole purpose is to be invested in stocks, bonds, real estate, businesses, whatever vehicles you choose to generate passive income streams. This is the money that will eventually buy your freedom. You live off the golden eggs, the investment returns, dividends, rental income, but you never, ever touch or kill the goose. the principal capital in the FFA.
Wow, that requires discipline. 10% just locked away for investing forever.
It does, but it builds your wealth engine automatically. Now, to balance that discipline, there's another equally important account,
Which is?
the play account. This also gets 10% of your income.
Okay, 10% for play. What's the rule for this one?
Save it. The exact opposite. The rule for the play account is that you must spend it every single month.
Must spend it? All of it.
All of it. Every month. On things that make you feel good, nurtured, luxurious, abundant things you wouldn't normally buy.
Why is spending mandatory? That seems weird for a wealth-building system.
It's crucial psychology. If your only experience with managing money is restriction, saving, hoarding, and delaying gratification, like the FFA, your subconscious mind can start to associate money with deprivation and struggle.
Which could lead to resentment or sabotage later.
Exactly. The play account is designed to counteract that. Its purpose is to nurture your receiving muscle and reinforce the idea that money can also bring joy, pleasure, and ease right now. It makes the whole process sustainable and fun. It proves to your inner self that you are worthy of abundance and enjoyment.
So what kind of things should you spend play money on?
Whatever makes you feel truly pampered and rich. The source humorously suggests things like going to a fancy restaurant and ordering champagne, getting a luxurious massage, maybe even hiring 2 massage therapists at once, one for each side, complete with hot rocks and cucumbers on your eyes.
Okay, maybe not 2 therapists, but I get the idea. Something purely for pleasure and feeling abundant without guilt.
Precisely. You must blow this account every month to strengthen that feeling of deservingness and to balance the saving habit. It keeps the saver and the spender parts of you happy.
Okay, so 10% FFA, never spend, only invest. 10% play, must spend monthly. That's 20%. What about the rest?
The other 80% is typically allocated like this. 10% for long-term savings for spending, LTSS. This is for bigger planned purchases like vacations, a new car, down payment on a house. You save up for these goals here. 10% for education, EDUC. Investing in yourself, books, courses, seminars, coaching. Continuously learning is vital. 50% for necessities, NEC. This covers your regular living expenses, rent, mortgage, food, utilities, transport, insurance, etc. The key is learning to live comfortably within this 50% boundary, which directly fights Parkinson's law. 10% for give, GVE, for charitable donations, tithing, or helping others. This fosters gratitude and circulation.
FFA, play, LTSS, EDUC, NEC, give. It's a simple percentage system.
Very simple, but incredibly powerful if applied consistently. Even if you start with just $10 a month, allocating $1 to FFA, $1 to play, $1 to ADSC, $5 to NEC, and $1 to give builds the habit. As your income grows, the amounts grow, but the habit is already ingrained. This system ensures you're simultaneously building future wealth, enjoying the present, saving for goals, investing in yourself, covering needs, and giving back. It creates financial balance and control. Okay, we've covered mindset shifts like creator versus victim, commitment, opportunity focus, both thinking, and the practical mechanics of measuring and managing money. There's one more huge mental barrier we need to tackle.
What's that?
Mindset file, #16. Acting despite fear.
Fear, the big one. Fear, doubt, worry. They stop so many people.
They are perhaps the single biggest obstacles to taking the actions needed for success, and honestly just for happiness in general. The fundamental difference here is stark. Poor people let fear, doubt, and worry stop them. Rich and successful people feel fear too, but they act in spite of it.
They feel the fear and do it anyway.
That's the mantra. They don't wait for the fear to disappear because they know it probably won't, especially when pushing boundaries. They acknowledge the fear, and then they take the necessary action regardless.
This relates to the comfort zone idea, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The source puts it very directly. Your comfort zone equals your wealth zone. CZ equals your wealth zone.
CZ, meaning if you stay comfortable, your wealth stays stagnant.
Precisely. If you're currently living, say, a level 5 financial life, but you aspire to a level 10 life, you cannot get there by staying within your level 5 comfort zone. Growth only happens when you step outside your current comfort zone into the uncomfort zone.
That sounds uncomfortable.
It is, by definition. Pushing boundaries, trying new things, taking risks, facing potential failure, it's inherently uncomfortable. But here's the essential truth they lay out, and it's kind of brutal but also liberating. If you are only willing to do what's easy, life will be hard. But if you are willing to do what's hard, life will be easy.
Well, say that again.
If you're only willing to do what's easy, stay in your comfort zone, avoid challenges, play it safe, life will inevitably become hard because you won't grow. Opportunities will pass you by, and you'll likely struggle financially. But if you are willing to do what's hard, face the fear, embrace discomfort, take the necessary challenging actions eventually, life becomes much easier because you've built skills, resilience, confidence, and wealth.
So comfort is overrated.
Highly overrated if growth and success are your goals. Rich people understand this. They understand that the feeling of comfort is often a sign of stagnation, while the feeling of discomfort is often a sign of growth. They practice being comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's a muscle you build.
And a lot of this fear, these uncomfortable feelings,
Yeah.
they come from our own minds, right? The internal chatter.
Oh, massively.
Yeah.
The source calls the mind the greatest soap opera scriptwriter in history.
Huh. Yeah, it can create some serious drama.
It's constantly writing scripts based on fear, past failures, potential future disasters, worst-case scenarios that almost never actually happen the way the mind predicts. It loves drama.
So how do we deal with that internal drama queen?
The key insight is realizing you are not your mind. You are the observer of your mind. You are the awareness behind the thoughts. Your mind is a tool, a magnificent one, but it's not the totality of who you are. It produces thoughts based on its programming, but you don't have to believe or identify with every thought it generates.
So you can detach from the thoughts, observe them without getting swept away.
That's the goal. And the most important skill you can develop, according to these sources, is training your mind, learning to manage your own thoughts. They call this power thinking.
Power thinking, is that just positive thinking?
It's more nuanced than just slapping a positive label on everything. Power thinking isn't about denying reality or pretending a negative situation doesn't exist. It's about consciously choosing your perspective and your focus.
How does that work?
It starts with observing your thoughts. When a negative or fear-based thought arises, I'm gonna fail, this is too hard, I'm not good enough, you first just notice it without judgment. Then you consciously ask, is this thought empowering me or disempowering me? Is it moving me towards my goals or holding me back?
And if it's disempowering?
You consciously choose to cancel that thought, or at least not give it energy, and replace it with a more empowering perspective or belief. You recognize that events themselves have no inherent meaning except the meaning you give them. So, you choose to assign a meaning that serves you, a story that supports your happiness and success, even if it feels a bit uncomfortable or unfamiliar at first.
So you're actively choosing a better feeling, more useful thought, even if the fearful one feels more real in the moment.
Exactly, because the fearful thoughts are usually just old programming anyway, not objective truth. You train your mind, like training a puppy, to focus on empowering thoughts and possibilities. It takes practice, conscious effort.
And creating a boundary with that fearful voice.
Yes. The source recommends making a pact with yourself. Whenever that fear-based voice inside says, I can't, or I don't want to, or I don't feel like it, especially regarding an action you know you need to take, you do it anyway.
Just push through the resistance.
Push through. Act despite the feeling. What happens when you do this consistently?
You build confidence.
Dramatically. Every time you act despite fear, you prove to yourself that you are bigger than your fear. You build courage. And interestingly, that fearful little voice starts to quiet down over time. It learns that its whining doesn't stop you anymore, that you are the boss, not it. Discipline and confidence are built by consistently choosing supportive action over comfortable feeling.
Wow. Okay. We've covered a lot of ground here. From the deep-seated blueprint and thermostat through the conditioning factors, the change process, and these crucial wealth files or mindsets. It really feels like the core message is that financial success isn't just about luck or external factors.
Not at all. The overwhelming message from these sources is that success, particularly financial success, is fundamentally a learnable skill. It's not magic. It's not predetermined by birth. It's a result of your inner programming and the actions that stem from it.
Which means anyone can change their results.
Absolutely. It doesn't matter where you started, what programming you received as a child, or what your current bank balance looks like. What matters is your willingness to learn, to update the files, to do the inner work, and to take different actions.
And the fastest way to get there, to get rich and stay rich.
According to this philosophy, the fastest and most sustainable way is to focus primarily on developing you. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job or your business. Grow yourself into the kind of person who naturally attracts and manages wealth successfully.
Which flips the common understanding of how success works, doesn't it?
Completely. It reveals the true order of success, which wealthy people understand implicitly or explicitly. First, you be the successful person. develop the mindset, character, habits. Then you do what successful people do, take the right actions, manage money well, act despite fear. And only then do you have what successful people have, the wealth, the results.
Here.
You right ergo.
Biaragowo. Whereas most people think,
Most poor and middle-class people operate from the reverse. Have right arrow, go over. They think, if only I had more money, HAV, then I would do the things rich people do, like invest or start a business, DO, and then I could finally be happy and successful. BE.
but that's backwards.
Totally backwards, according to this model. Because if you haven't first changed your internal blueprint, your beingness, any extra money you have will likely just disappear because your thermostat setting hasn't changed. You'll revert back. You have to work on the BE first, become the person capable of handling wealth, and the wealth will follow and stick.
And becoming that person requires ongoing learning.
Continuous, lifelong learning, driven by humility. There's one final wealth principle that really hammers this home. Rich people constantly learn and grow. Poor people think they already know.
Ooh, that's a zinger.
It is, isn't it? Rich people actively seek advice, mentorship, and knowledge, especially from people who are already more successful than they are. They embrace being a learn-it-all.
Whereas poor people,
Poor people often take advice from their friends who are also broke, reinforcing limiting beliefs. Or worse, their ego prevents them from admitting they don't know, so they pretend to be a know-it-all, shutting themselves off from the very information that could help them. If you learn about money from people who are broke, what's the main thing they can realistically teach you?
how to be broke.
Exactly. You've got to learn from those who have the results you want. You have to be willing to be coached, to be mentored, to constantly upgrade your knowledge and skills.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, the final decision really lies with each listener, doesn't it?
It does. Are you willing to shift your identity from potentially being a know-it-all to embracing being a learn-it-all? Are you willing to commit to that continuous growth, to doing the inner work, to installing these wealth files, and crucially, to acting even when it feels uncomfortable?
Because, as the declaration goes,
Every master was once a disaster. Nobody starts out perfect. Everyone who's successful started somewhere, learned, practiced, failed, adjusted, and kept going. The potential for transformation is there if you commit.
so the final provocative thought for everyone listening might be, which file, which specific mindset or habit we discussed today are you going to consciously open and begin reprogramming in your own mental filing cabinet starting right now?
That's the action step. Choose one file, apply the awareness, understanding, disassociation declaration steps, and commit to the new way of being. That's how the change begins.